Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Fathers Handling Business. I'm Dwyan Marsh, and it's my co-host here,
Donté Witherspoon. And today we're going to talk about a big topic for all modern parents: technology for kids. Okay, is it a great learning tool, or is it a dangerous distraction?
Okay, so I'm on the side of technology is a great tool. I mean, it can help kids learn faster. It can keep them connected, and it's keys for the future. Technology is the future. What's your take on that?
I don't disagree with you about technology being the future, because it most definitely is. As you can see, we have jumped, as it seemed, light years ahead from the last 20 years,
Correct.
Just with the internet in general and apps and cell phones and you name it, like technology has certainly evolved. However, I feel like it's had a huge impact on our kids as far as like their attention span, their ability to learn in different ways. And really the urge to kind of just get out of the house.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about it. We also want to hear what you say. So, if you got any comments or if you got any input that you want to put to this conversation, put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. So, first question: what age do you think kids should start using technology, and why is that the right age?
Okay, so that's a great question. I feel like as the years go by, it seems as though that kids are having access to technology earlier and earlier on. So I don't know if you remember when you first got your cell phone, but I remember when I first got mine.
Yes.
It was in 2001. I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
This is when I first got my first cell phone.
Okay.
And so to answer your question, when should kids, and I'm assuming you're talking about cell phones in general or technology as a whole?
Well, when should they start using technology? And when I say using technology, we're talking about like from the tablets, because most parents that I've seen anyway, they start their little kids out with like a tablet first, right?
Yeah.
And then, as they get older, they get a cell phone. Or I've seen where at restaurants or whatever, like parents will hand their kid their cell phone, or even in the grocery cart. Yep. I've seen kids as young as, 0.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As young as they're old enough to hold the phone. Like, so they're, 1 year old or less, or, around that age, 1 to 18 months. I've seen them in grocery carts holding a cell phone while their parents are shopping.
Before they could even speak.
Before they could speak.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So the question is, what age do you think, they should start, we should start letting them play with technology?
That's a good question. I think it depends on how the parent is allowing the child to use the device, whether that be a cell phone, whether that be an iPad. How is that parent allowing that child to use the device? Is that parent allowing the child to use the device as an actual tool? And I say tool in the sense of a learning tool. So is that child using the device to learn about puzzles or math or something of that nature, or learning a second language, right? Shapes, colors, things of that nature, right?
Learning a second language.
Yeah. So is it being used as a tool, or is it being used as a babysitter? And so when you mention, parents, give their cell phones or tablets to kids at a restaurant or to in a grocery store in the cart, as long as they can hold it, I can pretty much guarantee it's not as a learning tool. It's
Correct.
To keep them busy so they don't bother the parent.
I agree with you there, but still, you haven't answered my question yet. What age do you think that we should start letting our kids play with technology?
It's tough.
You gotta give me a solid guy. I gotta get an answer.
Man, it's tough. Help me out. It's tough.
We know it's tough. I mean, that's
tough.
why we're having this conversation. But like, give me an age. Is it 10? Is it 5? Is Is it 4? Is it 3? Is it like what age do we just give them a screen and be like, do something?
Man. All right. If I have to give an age,
You gotta get him an age.
in today's age, I'm gonna have to say, oof, it hurts. It pains me to say this.
Let me hear it. What is it?
I'm gonna say 5.
5. Okay, bow. Okay, 5 years old. Now, at 5 years old, that means that they can talk. Most kids can talk at 5.
Yeah.
That means that they can walk. That means they can run. They've gotten through their terrible twos. They know that the stove is hot. They know that, they shouldn't be sticking scissors inside of, electrical outlet
Sockets, yep.
at 5. And then they're about to start kindergarten
Right.
at 5, right? Yeah, all my kids started kindergarten around 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So that means that they're about to go into the world at 5. So you're saying 5 is, and why are you saying 5? I'm just itemizing where a kid should be around 5 years old. But why do you think 5 is a good age, or why did you pick that age?
I picked that age because from infancy, kids are pattern seeking, right?
Correct.
So if they know that they have access to a device and a technological device at infancy, then they're gonna expect that all the time, right? But if a child who has lived for 5 years without a technological device at their disposal, right? Then they're going to go into their school setting, whether that be a public school, a private school, home school, and a special academy. They got academies now for everything. They're not going to expect to use technology, right away. They're going to go into a classroom or some type of school setting knowing that there's other ways to learn and grow.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so in all the things that you mentioned, like they can walk, they can talk, they've passed their terrible twos, they've learned, that the stove is hot, they can't, all those things that you mentioned, those things are important.
Correct.
For kids to know without technology. And it comes from having a relationship with their parents or older siblings or grandparents, whoever's raising you. And it allows them to stay connected to the human being rather than to a device.
Okay. Okay. So in that, is technology the best way for kids to learn, or do you feel like old school methods are still prevalent?
I think it's a both and. I think that technology definitely has evolved in a way where it can it can teach kids, I would say, a lot faster, because it helps keep kids engaged. Like kids get bored really fast now. Their attention, and especially at a younger age, attention spans are, it doesn't last that long, right? And so their ability to pay attention to what a teacher has to say for a long period of time, that really, it's not helpful, especially for males. So little young boys, to expect them to sit still in the classroom for 30 minutes at carpet time, or to sit still for 30 minutes learning about, whatever is being taught.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's conducive, right? In a conducive learning environment for children, until they get to a certain age, right?
Right.
And so what technology does...
So, and that age is 5.
Yeah, at 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
And so what technology does, it helps engage, children in a different way, to where it keeps them, like it's fun. Like you get to touch a screen and then stuff moves, or like they've created so many different games and apps, learning games and apps as well, that will help kids, number one, capture their attention, because that's how you're going to learn, and then teach them whatever it's trying to teach them in that sense. So I think technology is great in that sense, but also like I steer on the side of caution when it comes to technology, because there's also a huge disconnect when it comes to engaging in like humanity, like the human touch, the conversation with kids, other kids your age, and being able to play games that are not on a computer.
Right.
So just fostering that part of development and growth in children. So like the physical aspect, yes, you can learn about science and physics and all that stuff on a computer, but it's also like, amazing to see when it's physically right there in front of you as well.
Right. 100%. So yeah, I mean, you got some questions on there as well.
Yeah. So, you said you're on the side of technology, and my worry is the dangers, and I think it's too much of a distraction. So, and it can even bring about moral issues and things that kids aren't really ready to handle at a younger age. And so, what's your take on, technology being a distraction, and then, what can be exposed to children at such a very young age if the proper, precautions are not, brought forth?
So for me, I'm all about tools. I'm all about making things more accessible, and using things that we have created to advance where we are, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, technology is just a tool, right? If you use it in the correct way. So for instance, technology is based off of real world things,
Yeah.
So I'm an audio engineer, right? So all of the plugins that I use inside of my engineering program, my audio program, DAW is what they call it, are based off of real world outboard gear, like real world with knobs on it.
Yeah.
Right. So technology is the same way. Like it should be used in conjunction with. So while we're teaching our kids, so for instance, I like to garden. So when I take my kid out, I may use an app on my phone to take a picture of the plant and say, okay, what kind of plant is this?
Right.
But let's touch it. Let's feel it. Let's see what it does. Let's plant it. Let's water it. Let's, do all the things to make it grow. And now we can optimize its growth because now we have some technology right behind it to use it. So it's ultimately education is on the parent. Right.
Yeah.
Not necessarily on the teacher, even though we are taught that, hey, teacher, send your kids to school and, the teacher is going to teach them all that they need to know. But that's not real life. You have to teach your kids. The teacher probably has 30 or more kids there. And so they're just teaching from a curriculum, and not everybody can learn like that. But when we're talking from 0 to 5, that's you time.
Yeah.
As a parent. So you need to be, not that you need to be, but, the best practice, in my opinion, is to teach your kids how to use technology, not just giving them the tablet and you just play with this. So there are dope tablets like Leapfrog and stuff like that. But, the best way for them to learn as they're learning the world, right, is to learn the physical world first, and then how it relates to technology, right? So how they can use the blocks first and, feel the blocks and, count on the abacus and on the little, things that they have with the,
You're bringing it all back now.
All the little tools that we had as kids, the cow says moo, the little thing that you turn.
Yep.
It's like that little circle thing, and then It had the animals on it.
I know what you know
You know
what
what
you're
I'm
talking
talking
about.
about? You know what I'm saying? I don't remember what it's called, but it was a circle, and then it had the arrow on it, and then it had all the animals, and then you press the button, and then it stops on the animal,
Right.
and then it was like, oh, this is a pig. What does the pig say? You know what I'm saying? This is a cow. What does the cow say? You know, these are all things that, and that's technology too, though, right? Because that was in the 80s when we had that tool. Right. Mm-hmm. But before that, they might have had to go out to the farm and be like, yo, there's a pig. What does he say?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But now we have the technology. So technology can be a great tool. But at the end of the day, it's just a tool, and tools by themselves can't work. Like if I have a hammer and it's just sitting there, it's not going to put a nail into a wall.
Right.
Like I have to actually pick it up and use it. And so if we can think about it in that way, and parents can think about it in that way, that these are just tools that we can use to help aid in teaching our kids, not here, you just learn from this.
I couldn't agree with you.
I want to play
anymore.
you this thing that I found from this teacher. I want to play just a little.
Okay. I am not trying to fearmonger you, but I was an assistant principal, I was a middle school teacher, and I was a high school teacher. And I need you to know America is in a literacy crisis, and they're not making a big enough deal about it. Our children cannot read. Our children cannot read, let alone writing a paragraph, let alone comprehension. They cannot read. They do not know how to sound words out. They were not taught that. Wow. And if you're wondering, well, then why does my kid just keep getting passed on to the next grade? Because that's what they're doing now. They're not holding the children back. They're moving them on. They're graduating them, knowing that your child is illiterate. Our next change makers, our next lawmakers, our next voters cannot read. I beg of you, take the tablets and the cell phones away. Practice letter recognition and sounds and reading with your child, please. And I'm gonna keep. So, I mean, that's from a assistant or a teacher, and you know, my sister is a teacher, and you know, she complains all the time about, you know, her students and the parents not really working together with them, you know, to help, because ultimately the education is not on the teacher, it's on us as the parents. And so, and I understand that a lot of times, you know, we may not know how to educate our kids, or, you know, we just have that thinking like, hey, the school is for education, home is for chilling or whatever. But you have to educate your kids because they are leaning a lot more on the technology and not using it as a tool as it should be. Yeah. So, you know, what are some positive ways that what positive ways have you seen kids use technology, and how can we teach them to use it responsibly?
Yeah, I think a lot of what you just mentioned before, and I was going to say, like, I couldn't agree with you more as far as teaching a kid how to use technology first before just giving it to them.
Right.
That's the correct way to do it.
Right.
And to also piggyback off of what you said in regards to, you know, from 0 to 5, like, parents, it is your job to teach your kids. Like, I taught preschool, pre-K actually, for 7 years. And to hear you say that is refreshing. No, seriously, because a lot of times parents will send their kids to, you know, preschool and pre-K. And I was at a school where parents are bringing their kids from, when I was first there, it was 8 weeks old, and then they moved it to 12 weeks old. So, and my son went there. So he went there from 8 weeks old and then they have a kindergarten. So through kindergarten.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I have to tell you, it is very important for parents to teach your children all that you can. Like, I know that there's a lot of working parents out there, and, you know, working a full-time job, and then also dealing with one or multiple kids. Like, it's you know, not dealing with them, raising them, right? Mm-hmm. Raising one or multiple kids, like, it's not easy. I 1000% get it. However, if you have kids, it is your responsibility to teach them. You are the first teacher for your children, not their actual teachers for when you send them to school.
Facts.
And so what you said, like I said, is very refreshing to hear you say that, because a lot of parents have a misconception of, well, I send my kids to school, they should just learn everything that they need to know there. And they're at school for a very short period of time, right? And then they're at home for a period of time. Like, there's the teaching and learning for the kids does not stop when they leave school. It doesn't. So, I just wanted to share that. Now, to answer your other question, what was it? I actually forgot now.
So the positive ways that we can use technology, and then, how can we teach them, like, what are some actionable steps that we can teach them to use it responsible? So as you pointed out, it is tough for parents out there that have multiple kids, that have maybe multiple jobs as well. Yep. So, I don't want to be in the business of presenting a problem without also, giving some solutions. So what are some actionable steps that parents can take with limited time, maybe limited resources as well? Maybe they don't know how to educate their kids, but like, what is give me just one actionable step that they could take.
Well, I'll give you a couple. One would be, like you said, first teaching them how to use the device. Like, that's key, right?
So let me just push back on that a little bit. So that could be a multiple meaning. You know what I'm saying? Teaching them how to use the device. What does that mean? Swiping up, swiping down, going left, going right? Like, what does that mean?
Okay, so giving, well, yeah, that part. and sometimes they can figure that out on their own.
Exactly.
But also, like, giving them a device that has with a purpose. Okay. So giving them a device that has...
what if the purpose is just to shut them up because they're crying?
Well, then you're failing. Then you're failing. I'm sorry.
But you don't have to be a failure. Like I said, we're gonna help you get through it. So what can we do? What actionable steps can you take?
Okay, so giving the device to your child with a purpose for them to hopefully learn something, right? Learn something positive, because there's a lot of negative to learn on devices. But giving them something positive to learn, and then giving them a time limit, and then sticking to that time limit. So being very consistent. Mm-hmm. So like I mentioned before, kids from infancy are pattern seeking. So if you tell your child that you have this device from this time to this time, and you're allowed to do, X, Y, and Z, these 3 activities on this device, and you showed them how to use those, those apps or tools or whatever it is that they're allowed to use for that allotted amount of time. And then once that, that timer goes off, so set a timer. And once that timer goes off, then you're like, all right, your time is up. And then you take the device and you move on to the next thing, right? If you do that on a consistent basis and do not waver from that, that's the key, right? Because there's always that time where, like you said, you're giving, a lot of parents give the device to the child so that it could shut them up or keep them busy because you got other things you got to do as a parent.
Right.
But if you are consistent, then they will know, like, all right, my time is up. I heard the alarm and we have to move on to the next thing. Like, I think if we use it, and that's literally using it as a tool in a correct way, I would say.
Okay.
In a correct way.
Okay. All right. Well, that's thank you for those actionable steps. Mm-hmm. So technology gives kids new ways to learn, from online research to educational games that makes lessons fun. Proverbs 24:3-4 shows us how wisdom and knowledge build strong foundations. So as I said before, each generation has different tools, right? But if we keep backing it up, all the tools are based off of something that's in the physical world, right? And we've actually turn the physicality into, these little devices now,
Yeah.
to where, it can hold a bunch of information, which is dope, but also can create issues if not used properly.
Yes.
Right. So, so now 5 years old, we've given our child the first taste of technology, let's say, right? So, from 5 to what age do you give them a cell phone?
Oh,
Dun, dun, dun.
yes. All right.
The deep
And this
breaths.
is yes. So, and I know you're looking for a number, and I will give you the number, but I'm also going to tell you this: it's going to vary depending on like whatever lifestyle you're living. So, like, I'm going to give an example. If you are sending your kid to school, and you're going off to work, and they're in sports and they have to stay after school for the sports, or they're in sports and you have to pick them up and then drop them off at practice or whatever.
Okay.
I get the use of a cell phone at that point, right?
Okay.
And unless you're staying at the practice.
So what are you saying the use of the cell phone is? Just to be clear.
I'm saying the use of the cell phone should be to stay in contact with your kid, to know where your kid is at all the time.
So for emergencies, and so this whole knowing where your kid is at all times. Did your parents know where you were when you were outside playing on the bike and just with your friends?
Did they know? Did they know?
Did they know?
They probably didn't know everywhere where I was at, but they knew. They knew
Kind of the general area, but they didn't know where you were.
But
you didn't have a cell phone.
I did not have a cell phone. I went outside the bounds when I was in elementary school.
Somebody brought up there's a meme or something, and I'm sorry if I don't give the proper credit, but somebody brought up a great point that in the 80s and the early 90s, they literally had to make a commercial that said, "Hey, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?" There's literally a commercial. That's how much we were outside and our parents weren't worried about, whether we were coming. Now, the amount of child abductions wasn't that much different.
Just gonna say it. Well,
it wasn't that much different.
No,
it wasn't that much different. We gotta look up the statistics. We'll look up the statistics.
We have to, because I feel like it's way more prevalent.
You know what it is that we know more now because of technology. Like I always say, like police always been beating on black people. It's just now that we have the technology, people just see it more. And they're just like, yo, I didn't know that this was going on. Right. Because this wasn't in your purview. The pressing question right now is, what age do we want to give cell phones to our kids?
Yeah. So,
what's a good
gauge? So I know, to answer your question, I would say, and like I was mentioning before, like depending on your situation, if the kid is in sports and whatnot, I would say high school, maybe freshman year of high school is when they're mature enough. They understand, like they've gone through, and I want to say like middle school, junior high, whatever you call it wherever you're at. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's such a tough time for kids nowadays. They're like trying to find their identity and who they are, and whether or not they want to be a leader or a follower, like just all the things, right?
Yeah, going from having the one teacher to having multiple teachers. Having to juggle getting to class and gym and the different cliques.
All those things. So I feel like if they've gone through 2 to 3 years of that, and they survived that without a cell phone, and then like I feel like freshman year of high school is a good segue into sliding them that iPhone or whatever.
Okay, so you're saying the iPhone. So this is two different things here. So we're saying, so you're saying a phone strictly for communication purposes can be introduced, when do you think? Around 10? Strictly for, like, I'm just saying, like a flip phone, a text only phone, you know?
Yeah, 10 is 10.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then you're saying, so 5 years later, 14, around 14, 15, when most people go to high school.
Right.
You're saying like they're ready for social media. They're ready for.
I'm not saying that they're ready for social media. I'm saying they're ready for the better device, if you will, or, you know, they can be trusted. Social media is something that parents also need to teach their kids how to use.
Correct.
Because, and I'll tell you, in junior high or middle school, like if you give a child social media, they're going to post stupid things. They're going to
Correct.
say stupid things. 1,000, especially if it's a boy.
Correct. Girls do too, though.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we're speaking from experience here.
Yes.
Boys are pretty, rambunctious. Rambunctious is the word I'll use.
Honestly, like when it comes to the social media thing, I feel like the parents need to have a really long conversation about like what's acceptable to post. And then also like the why behind, like why are you posting what you're posting, or what do you want to post and why?
I mean, even the better question is, why do you want to be on social media? And the question or the answer to that is because all my friends, right? All my friends, all the reasoning behind a lot of the things that we do at that age is because all my friends.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I was getting in trouble at 15, 16, it's because all my friends were doing, you know, the thing that we weren't supposed to be doing. And that's why we did it, because all our friends were doing it. And so it really just goes back to the parenting. And, you know, I know you said earlier, you know, from 0 to 5, the parents, you are the educator, but I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. You are the educator all the way through your kid's life. Like that's just is what it is. Now you might be teaching different things, you know, at this point, you know, my kids are grown. My kids are, you know, out of high school. Well, I have one that's graduating high school, but the other two are actually have jobs and, you know, have moved away and are doing their things. But the questions that they ask me now, I'm still teaching them things. I'm still teaching them on how to be an adult. And I feel like I always tell my friends, like, I feel like they're toddlers all over again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because now I'm teaching them something completely different. Not that I didn't teach them this before, but now that they're actually going through it,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? They have to deal with bank accounts and bills and, you know, monthly stuff that comes up and they're actually doing it, you know what I'm saying, on their own, you know, it's a whole nother, you know, teaching situation. It's a whole nother So, you know, all through. So, you know, from 0 to 5, you know, you got to teach them the world. Yeah. You know, you got to teach them how to speak, how to talk, how to walk, how to interact with people, how to honor their mother and father, you know, all that kind of good stuff. And then you introduce the device. Now, this is just our timeline based on, you know, our experiences.
Yes.
But 0 to 5, you know, keeping the devices away. Now, I will say I have a nephew who's 6 years old, and the only thing he watches is YouTube. Right. So he watches, you know, whatever he watches, you know, and it's mostly educational stuff, you know, like he likes trucks and, you know, stuff like that. So he'll literally just watch garbage trucks doing their thug thizzle on YouTube, you know, for hours. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, all right, that's what you like. But, you know, that is something that, you know, people are going away from just watching TV. And now they're just watching YouTube for educational stuff or for their TV purposes. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so 0 to 5, introducing the tablet, the whatever. And then you're saying 10, cell phone for communication services. And then 14, 15, high school for social media. Yeah.
If you choose to allow your kid to have social media at that age, like.
Yeah. My sister was having not an issue, but just a conversation, you know, trying to understand because her daughter is going into high school but all her friends, you know, have social media and have had social media. Yeah. But, you know, she's like, no, I'm not having you have social media. But I told her, like, you got to have a talk with her, you know, like And when I say the education part, like the education has to come from us as parents, because we have to have conversations that maybe our parents didn't have with us. And a lot of these conversations that we're having with our kids, maybe our parents didn't have to have that conversation with us, you know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But if you really peel it back, yeah, we're talking about social media, but at the end of the day, we're really just talking about peer pressure, right? We're really just talking about dealing with your peers, dealing with, bullying, dealing with, trying to fit in.
Yeah.
Like those things are core elements. And now they're on social media. So we're linking it to that. But it's just, before it was just whoever was in our immediate area or immediate school or whatever. But now it can be
everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and it goes back to what you were saying before, like dealing with things in the physical world first. And technology has evolved so much to where we kind of don't have to do a lot in the physical world, right? Like we're literally talking about having a social connection with people who we either go to school with or people who we don't go to school with, like complete strangers. And so
does that make it spiritual then? So does that mean that we need to take care of the spirit of our kids before they go to the physical and then back to the spiritual?
1000%. Like, because at the end of the day, like we want our kids to be protected. Like,
correct.
Right?
Correct.
And so a lot of the things that kids are experiencing from social media is like what you mentioned before, the bullying, that like really and truly it's the comments. Like these kids read these comments and people say like not just hateful things.
Correct.
And if you're not teaching your kids how to not take things personal, they're internalizing these things.
Correct.
They're internalizing these things.
Spiritual,
right? They're not knowing how to take what they just read about them or about whatever they just posted. And then, at a certain age, our kids aren't going to come to us with everything and tell us everything. No. Like, we're just not the cool people to come to all the time, like once they get a certain age. And so who are they going to? Who do they talk to when they're internalizing these comments that they've read, hurtful and hateful comments? Like, who do they turn to?
Right.
Sometimes nobody. And that's why you see a lot of kids committing suicide today, is because of something that they, the bullying that they've experienced on social media. And it's not even like the physical bullying that we experienced or are known to have seen growing up, right? It's all behind a screen. It's a smoke screen. It's
right.
So
I want to read you this proverb real quick. Proverbs 4:20. It says, "My child, pay attention to what I say," as a parent speaking. "Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart, for they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body." And the 23rd verse, it says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." Right. And so this is really urging parents to guard their children's hearts by setting limits to protect them, from the moral corruption that's online.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like
1000%.
There's a lot of moral corruption online. And so, it goes back to what we're saying about, in those first 5 years, when you are your child's whole world, right? It's very important to lay those foundations and those spiritual foundations and letting them know, giving them encouragement and educating them and showing them the way that they should go, instead of just giving them to the wolves right away.
Yeah.
Right away. Because once they go out there into that social sphere, it's almost no turning back. It's almost like you don't know what they're going to see, no matter how many child locks or how many, restrictions you try to put on them once they get out there in the world. And then when they're at their friend's house, when they're over at a sleepover, or, just hanging out with their friends at school, that's what most of us saw, like the Playboy magazines and the, like the actual things that we weren't supposed to see was mostly outside of the home. Yeah. And so, having that background to ground them, and showing them the dangers of X, Y, and Z is always, train a child up in the way that they should go. So when they're old, they should not depart, Yeah. So
what you're talking about right now is influence.
Correct.
Like,
who has the influence?
Yeah. Who has the influence over your children? Is it you? Like, and if you think about it, so I'm going to take you through just a segment of my personal life and the influence that my kids, have, or the influences that my kids experience. So, divorced, so have 50-50 custody. They're with their mom half the time. They're with me half the time. They also are in, my daughter's in dance, my son's in baseball. It's year round. So it's not like just a short season. They're, every single week, right? There's something. So with that being said, and they also go to public school. All right. So we're talking about a good chunk of change at school, 6 to 8 hours, right?
Okay.
Then we're talking about at least 2 hours at practice. Let's see, my daughter's like 5 days a week. My son right now is like 3 or 4 days a week at practice, right? So that's at least 2 hours. They sleep, about 8 hours?
About 8
Are they
hours.
supposed to, right?
Right.
So we're already looking, that's 8 at school. Let's say they go to school. How long do they go to school? 8 hours? 6 hours?
6 to 8 hours.
6 hours. So let's call it 16 hours so far. And then if you're a working parent, like you work hopefully not every parent works, when their kids are at school. Sometimes they have, a graveyard shift.
Right.
And they don't get to, we don't get to see your kids all the time. And so the point being is, how much influence as parents do we actually have on our kids?
With about an hour a day?
Yeah.
Maybe 2 hours a day?
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot of time, but if the foundation is laid, then you can have a lot of influence.
Yeah, you can. And it's about being intentional. So like when you're having dinner, is the TV on? Or are you talking about the day? Like how was school? What did you learn?
That's a huge key, is the dinner table. Whether that be a small little table like this, a big table, or even just a tray. If you are taking that time, that's one of the things that I learned a while ago, just about taking the time to speak to your children at the dinner table or breakfast table, or whenever you have a meal together. You break bread, with them, and you talk, you have a conversation. How's your day? How's school? Oh, it's good. No, what does that mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What does that mean? What do you mean when you say good? Because that's what they say. Oh, it's fine. Oh, it's good. Nah. Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
What did y'all do? What did you and Connor do today? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What did you and, even if you don't know their best friend, just knowing their best friend's name and being able to, bring that up in conversation. How did you and Nigel, what did you and Nigel do today?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What was y'all getting into?
Yeah.
What was you and your homeboy getting into? Just those type of questions can bring about, first of all, care. You know what I'm saying? And then they just bring about a way to interact with your kid and being able to influence them, knowing that their parent cares, knowing that, we're not just sitting here watching TV together. We're actually having a conversation together. Right. Not that you can't watch TV with your kid, but at their dinner table, that's like boom.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
I would also say dinner table, also, as well as the car ride.
Yeah.
Man, I take the cell phone away in the car. Like, yo, how was your day? Can I have the cell phone? Like, they don't need the cell phone in the car. Again, I'm a parent that is using the cell phone as a tool to know where you're at. You in the car with me, I know where you're at. Give me the phone. Like, let's talk. Let's rap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, car rides. And here's another tip. Like, it's hard for kids to communicate once they get to a certain age. It's hard for them to like look the parent in the eye, because sometimes it's like, am I in trouble? Like, why are we face to face like this having a conversation? So if they're on the side of you or in the back seat and you're asking questions, they're more apt to like, not feel like they're in trouble.
Correct.
So to speak. And so like, if you can have those conversations in the car, whether it's a short ride home or a 20 or 30 minute ride home for wherever you guys are going, use the car as a tool. Like, I know a lot of people, they want to listen to music and the kids want to hear a song. And it's just like, no, let's talk.
Let's talk. What I used to do is same thing about the kid, about, no phones in the car, on a car ride. I had a long car ride with my kids most of the time when I got them. And so what we would do pretty much all the way through until they got to high school, maybe even a little bit into high school, we used to do the alphabet game.
Okay.
Right. So are you familiar with the alphabet game?
No, tell me.
So the alphabet game was just about looking at people's license plates. Right. And so somebody had to get to Z. So you had to find a license plate, or just any sign, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, okay, A, it's A right there, I'm there, you know what I'm saying? So this engages them. So now they're looking around. Now it's a competition, you know what I'm saying? Now we're, looking for things where we're, exploring seeing around. And this really helped when I took my kids drove them from LA to Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Oh.
So three teenage boys, and me, and we drove from Los Angeles to Chicago, 2-day trip. We stopped in a couple of different spots, but a lot of the time, I would only let them get on their cell phone for like an hour at a time. Okay. Right. But
setting limits.
But those other times, we were playing games. We were, doing all these little card games and having conversations and talking about girlfriends and you know what I'm saying? that kind of stuff, just having those conversations, to where, it may not seem like a lot now, but, as they get older, they'll remember those, conversations, whether they remember them or not, they're still in their psyche.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think we had a good conversation today. I know we disagree on a couple of things. We agree on a lot, but we actually, disagree on a couple of things. Tech can be good for kids if used in the proper way. That's really the long and short of it from my point of view. Yeah. Your point of view? My point of view is making sure you like teach them, the right way, right? You guys are your children's first teachers. Set boundaries, perimeters, all the things on all the devices. And there are different apps out there too, where you can, have protections for your children so that they're not exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to when on YouTube or what have you. Social media, they shouldn't be on social media. I'm against social media, by the way, unless you use it as a tool. Yeah, we'll get into that, another time. Another time. But yes, but yeah, being lifelong teachers of your kids is the key. Hopefully, we've given you a couple of tips based on our experience about how you can, be a better father and continue to be a grow as a father as you have your kids. Keep being strong, keep leading your families, and we definitely want to hear from you. Drop a comment If you think that we're tripping, I'd like to know, if you think that we're on point, if this has been helpful, let us know, because we definitely want to be able to, share our experience as fathers handling business. And we want to create some value for you, make sure that this is helpful for you. So if it is, let us know. If it's not, also, let us know what topics that you want us to talk about going forward. And, I'm Dwyan. Donté.
Don't forget to join us on Fathers Handling Business next time. Peace.
Peace.